we good to rock and roll, Ollie? Awesome. Fantastic. Hopefully everyone's got a drink and had a good chat with someone. Welcome to another IdentityXP event. So we're an identity and access consultancy, and our mission is really to protect and enable organisations and the people they serve, and that's what we're here to do tonight. So part of what we do for our mission is industry events like these, as well as a bunch of publishing and blog articles. So you're all a bit more informed and better able to help the people and organisations that you serve. So today, Vaugh and Pedram will be giving us a bit of an overview of Entra ID and all the new features that have come out recently. I won't get too much into that, but I'll hand to you in a second. But we've got pizzas coming at about 7 o'clock. We've got plenty of drinks left, so please do hang around, have a chat, meet some new people and network. Without further ado, Vaugh, over to you.
And thank you, Adrian. It's good to have you all here. I'm glad you survived the deluge of water that just came from the sky as everyone was rocking up. Apologies for that. I'll talk to God and I'll get it fixed for next time. I'm just waiting for, where's Pedram? Oh. Yeah. So today we're doing a demonstration of Entra. Entra ID. We're going to go through and demystify some of the recent announcements. I'm Vaugh Briscoe. This is Pedram. We come from IdentityXP, and we are super excited to have the elite of the elite in the identity and access industry in this room. So thank you kindly for coming. I'll run through a quick agenda. We've done the intros, so I won't rehash that. Shortly, we'll go through some quick history as to what's happened in the Microsoft space recently. And I know Meryl's in the room who's going to criticise everything I say, so sorry, mate. After that, we'll follow up with some high-level architecture based on our experience on working with Entra ID with our clients. And then after that, I'll stop spamming you with PowerPoint and we'll do an actual demonstration. You all want to see tech. You didn't come here to watch me talk. So once we've done the tech demonstration, we'll have some closing thoughts, and then pizza and beer will be the priority. Now, this session is intended to be incredibly informal. If you have questions, hit us up. We might hit you with this cube. This is actually a speaker. Oh, hang on, what have I done there? How did I do that? There we go. This is actually a speaker. You can talk into it. The cost of that is that I might throw it at you. The incentive, as opposed to the stick, is that we've got some prizes here behind the podium that I can give out if you give me a really good question. But it has to be a really good question. All right, so what's been happening? Lately, you might have seen some articles come up that look like this, calling out that Azure AD is gone, and that Entra ID is the new IDP in the Microsoft landscape going forward. I think I got my LinkedIn feed exploding from this announcement and a whole bunch of people asking me questions. I'm sure there are people in the room who had the same experience. What it amounted to mostly was a name change, but there were some hidden secrets in there as well. And I've hit the wrong button again. There we go. So it was July 13th, and all of the press was about the name change, but there were a few other bits and pieces that were announced as well. So Entra ID governance became official. We all got to find out about it. It's Microsoft's play at doing some SailPoint type things, some Savient type things, identity governance. They also released Entra Private Access, which is their play at an alternative for VPN. Also, they released Internet Access, which is an alternative to the Zscaler proxy type products that are out there on the market. Excuse me. And the last two items were more changes to the existing. So Entra ID protection got an uplift with new reporting capabilities and the new risky sign-in detection features. And then external ID went into preview, which is the pseudo replacement for the B2C product suite. So all good news, but they snuck it in. It wasn't really in the press. So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on that top item because it's the most beefy item. It's the item that we get by far the most amount of questions about. And we wanted to actually demystify that here today and show you what it's about. So now some boring architecture. This is a very basic diagram of what Entra ID governance means in the cloud. Essentially, now there is a capability to farm data from your human resources system into the Azure AD provisioning service, which is an enterprise app in the Entra ID platform. And once that data is being extracted, sync that into Entra ID itself. So is there any questions about that? It's really simple, but it's about to get a bit more complicated. Yes. Hang on. Good catch.
Thank you. Okay, just looking at this architecture, I'm guessing that for any given human resources platform, in order to be able to interface with the Entra ID, there are some kind of compliance guidelines. It needs to be able to have the appropriate API calls or interfaces built into it.
That is a fantastic question. I think the best way to answer that is we'll be showing how it all works in the actual application. In terms of the official guidelines, it very much depends on which organisation you're working with and the security frameworks they're trying to stay compliant with. Already we've seen some updates from NIST on how to do some of these bits and pieces, and I think that's the best thing to use as a guide, but we'll go into more detail on that. That's a fantastic question. You can have, yeah, one of them. And I won't throw that at you. I'll be a bit more polite.
I'll come up and do a swap.
So terrific question. Anything else? Let's check in. Awesome. So this is the typical cloud-only architecture, if you will. Most of our clients don't operate in a cloud-only environment. And so the next key question that we always get, how about the hybrid join domain? Correct. So coming back to this slide, the Azure AD provisioning service actually can be replaced with one of many out-of-the-box connectors. ServiceNow, SuccessFactors are examples of products that actually have their own version of this provisioning service component in this diagram. We can show the library, I think, during our demonstration if people have questions. Correct. So going to our hybrid join domain, things are quite different. So in this scenario, there's actually two new components. Well, one new component and a highly updated component. One is the provisioning service that you would have seen on the previous slide. And then beneath that is the Azure AD Connect provisioning agent. So this is how you farm data from your human resources system through the provisioning service and the provisioning agent into AD. You'll notice that in this flow, that happens before the directory on Entra ID gets updated. So in the new world, for the hybrid joined environment, if you want to source your HR data from the HR system and integrate it automatically, this is the pattern. Any questions about that? Sorry. How does the data get to Entra ID? So in this flow, I think I got up to updating AD. The existing componentry that you use to connect AD with Entra ID, which is Azure AD Connect. Now this, I think, is a bit old and it's now actually been upgraded to Entra ID Connect, I think. So apologies for that. But it's the same plumbing as you were using before, albeit a label change. Yes. Yeah, 100%. And we'll go through how some of that works in our actual demo. In the demo that oh, sorry. Yeah, okay, cool. In the demo that we're actually doing though, we're even going to show how we handle custom attributes and things like that, because no AD is the same as any other AD. And I think everyone in this room could agree with that. And your second question was? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so because it's an enterprise app, we've been experimenting with using it for multiple data sources, and it absolutely does work. Our demo today doesn't show that, unfortunately, but yes, it is capable. And then up the back. Yep. Yes, so Graph you can absolutely use. You can use in a few different parts of this flow. So Graph will actually have a bunch of commands that you can use to manipulate that provisioning service. On top of that, there are things that you can do in Graph that talk to Entra ID to affect that right back as well. We don't have anything in the demo for Graph, I don't think. However, we do, if we have time, and I can go through this even while we're eating pizza if you like, but we do have a demo of Logic Apps, and Logic Apps is built on Graph as well, so that'll give you some insight into that. Cool. Anything else? Yeah. The duplicate account problem requires some governance. So there's so many ways to skin that cat. This is the age-old problem that I think, whoops, sorry. I've hit the wrong button again. That's the age-old problem that we've been dealing with for a while. What I will say is there's definitely new features that make it much easier. Unfortunately, I'm not demoing them today. Yes. So both are supported. It is one of the things you definitely have to manage. You would need to work out rules for where you're sourcing users from, where you're sourcing groups from, and you'll need to maintain a level of separation because when there are duplicates of accounts on Entra ID, you have problems. And that's no different to how it was before. It's also no different to how many other apps in the identity and access management space work. But good question. So they all land in the same directory at the end of the day, and your good governance processes should be looking at accounts that are either in the directory or looking at the logs for failures and all that sort of thing. So that would be the way to manage it. There's a conversation there about Sentinel and using Sentinel to detect your failures and report on them and alert on them and all those sorts of things, which is all, again, similar to how the platform operates today. Cool. I think I'm going to stop talking as much and we're going to do some tech time. Pedram, are you ready to take over, mate? Thank you so much for the questions, by the way, just while we get into the real meat and potatoes. I can put that down too. So Pedram's just connecting to the environment that we are using. We're going to start by showing a CSV file to represent a HR data source, our favorite type of HR data source, not at all. but sadly the too common data source that we have to deal with. So just while he gets that up. Oh, so unfortunately the server got rebooted between us prepping for this and us starting this. So apologies for that. We're just trying to get things back up and running. The demo gods are really coming back to hit us again with this. There we go. So that's our CSV file. Very basic data. However, in here, just like in every single HR data source, there's some quirks. So Pedram, if you want to highlight our custom attributes that have been told to us to be absolutely mandatorily sent to our directory, and they are drink and food, because we have to understand people's favourite drink and their favourite food. I'm thinking the audience here mostly goes for beer, but anyway. Then we'll go through the AD. So we've shown you the source. Let's see what we're going to try and update. And the key focus here is to look at an example of an Active Directory. So if you want to bring... Oh, yeah, sorry. Great point. So one new thing that may or may not be in the ADs of the organisations you are working with that is absolutely mandatory for effective identity governance is the end date of your users. There are some interesting quirks about end date that we're going to run through and we're going to talk to, including, and this is most important when we get to actually looking at the AD, but how we transform that data. You'll see that there's a bit of an unusual name format. I had the pointer and now I'm pointing with the tablet because I'm out of hands, sorry. There's a conversation to be had about the fact that before injecting any users in through this process to get them into AD, you need to transform your dates into that format, which can be tricky. So that's the first call out. But let's keep going. Hey, Pedram. Push a button.
Just I want to add why the Let me turn this off. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with that. So the employee hire date is, if we don't have this attribute on-prem, it is a new attribute inside Entra ID. It is important because by hire date, we can set access packages. We can manage our identity governance. For example, when we hire a new user, based on that, we can work on the joiner and say, okay, 3 days before user join, what will happen? When the user join, what will happen? It's all of those things. It's managed by hire date attribute, which we don't have this attribute on-prem by default. So maybe many companies use extension attribute. One of the extension attribute, maybe they don't use it. It's just their HR system handle it. But in here, we need to have this. It's better to have this attribute.
Well said. So moving on to our AD. Any questions about the source just while Pedram does that? Yeah. So it depends on the time zone of the AD you're managing. You should try and convert into that on the way in. There's no smarts that will do it for you. So that's just another thing to be aware of. It's whatever the AD is set at. So if you've made it Eastern Standard Time, it will expect Eastern Standard Time. If you set it as UTC, it will expect UTC, etc. Yeah, so when we get into how the integration works and Pedram looks at the script that we use to do a lot of this transform, that would be the spot where you make those changes. Cool. Yeah, that's cool. So this is the AD. We've already got 3 users in here. And we've got them in there mostly for testing up to this point, but we'll show how the attribute schema is working. You can see that's the employee hire date, which is the field one of the fields we were talking about before. And then the other custom attributes that we've got. Food, right there. What's that food? I've not heard of that food. We're getting creative with our foods. And then drink. Asahi beer. I won't judge. Awesome. So now we'll start to show some of the actual magic. So we'll show the Entra ID enterprise app that we have created to make this integration work. Now, this is a lab environment, by the way. We're not playing with anybody's real environments. We're not playing with any of our customers' environments. This is all just what we use as a sandbox. So you might see some interesting things in here. And this is an example of the enterprise application. This starts out as an Azure template, and then we make changes to it to do all of the functions that we want. So this is the provisioning tab. And in here, you can see the provisioning settings. That was just the status. But here's where the actual mappings are made and where the credentials are stored. You can see that we also use a target OU to determine where we retrieve admin credentials from. And we select the agents to make sure that we are targeting the correct domain. Any questions about any of this? Cool. I don't think that one's going to play.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. I tried to do the right things. This doesn't work. Yeah. In here, we can have more than one agent for high availability. One agent always active, the other one is passive. So we don't have active. So this one and the other one, it's we can have if we have different domains. So we install the agent. We can see the agent in here, but we have this option. If we back in here, we can select our domain. So we can connect different domains to one Entra ID for provisioning user. It's depend on if we want to install the agent on those domains or not. So this is possible, and then it's an OU that we are going to provision user in.
Thanking you. Cool. So now we'll move on to the script. Or am I missing a step? No, mappings. Apologies. Script, yeah. Yeah, so some of that. It's more from your data source where you're mapping those attributes to and the rule and how that works. Do you want to talk to this part? Oh.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for this. So first thing that we need to do is once we have information from our HR system, first of all, we need to update this file with the custom attributes that we want. For example, in here we add employee hire date for hire date IdentityXP, and we add drink and food in here. If you have any other attribute, custom attribute that it is not in Active Directory, so and you extended your Active Directory schema to use that, you need to add it in here to this file, as we did in here, like drink and food or hire date. Once you do this, these are the scripts. It's a pretty simple things to do. It's Microsoft make it very, very easy through the publisher.
And Microsoft do provide templates for all these scripts too. So we weren't so ingenious that we wrote this from scratch. We absolutely updated an existing template.
Yeah, so we will go to that. All right. Just these two things are prerequisite to do it. Install this Graph API application and reports, as well as the make sure we can run the PowerShell scripts. So this is a place that we copy all of the information. So this one I will show you inside the file. By doing this, we will map the attributes to this file. So, and then attribute mapping.
And notice, I remember we had a question before about supporting multiple sources for HR. The service principles actually called out in the script. And so that's how you do some of the separation. So when the script runs and retrieves from our, in this case, Excel spreadsheet, and turns that into HR data on the actual application, it picks a specific service principle to do that. Yeah, you can ask another question. Yep. Yeah, and so this is an example of the script for creation. You would have another script for sync. Is that how we built it? No, it's changed it, didn't we? You can answer that.
No, this is this is for just provisioning users and updating the users. So
yeah, so I suppose the question is more around when you're creating the user.
Yes.
Because what I've seen, particularly when you're provisioning to AD directly, this is where you have your, it can be like three ways that you can get a clash, right? It can be the UPN already exists, the SAM account already exists. If you're logic creating that based on the authoritative source information, because typically that's, you know, you got first name, last name, first initial, whatever it is, right? You have to have some logic in between to say, check to see that this doesn't already exist before I go and commit what I'm going to create. Otherwise, I'm just going to have a shitload of errors.
And you can do that in the code, right?
Yep. Okay.
So.
Okay, so they can be built in there. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this all talks to Graph API, and you can make get queries at the start of the script to say, you know, does the
so you need to
username
check that it doesn't already exist.
where you've got the multiple source scenario,
you
probably recommended. Yeah.
Iterate or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So the other thing that in organization they do these days, just they have something like employee ID, something that is unique because user change their name or these stuff. So
yeah, but
you're
still going to have a SAM account.
Obviously.
A display name, and if any of those are clash, it will fail. I can tell you right now. I've seen thousands of them.
Oh yeah, this is obvious. This is a pre-check before creating users. It's a pre-check to just check all of the domains that we have in our organization to make sure SAM account name, it's unique, your display name, these stuff are unique. Actually, not in all of the domains, but if you have single domain display name or UPN and SAM account name are unique. If you have many domains, SAM account name must be unique. So in all of that. So yes, that's right. And it's something that before provisioning, we need to control it and check it.
Throw this back.
All right, cool. Any other questions about the script before we keep going? Cool. So now let's create another user in the source.
Just.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, in here. So
I missed one script. Sorry.
In here. So we are going to import this sample file, as you can see in here, attribute mapping to this file. So in here, when we have, by default, out of the box, Microsoft, it has some of these schemes in here. So that's great. But as you saw, we extended our schema by food, drink, and hire date. So we need to pass all of this information, push all of this information to Entra ID as well. So this is a thing that we created. This is a custom one. Okay, so this is a custom one that we created.
Yeah.
This is a custom scheme that we added in here for passing our information, extra information that we have to Entra ID, and then create it inside Entra ID. So, and yeah, this one, this script, it will compare this file, the file that contains users information, with this one to make sure all of the attributes, everything, they are in place. So run this one. So it's give me true. If it's something mismatch, it will show me in here error message. So for example, I can add something in here. Do you want to see the
Yeah, so we'll add a user.
Okay, yeah.
Now?
Yeah, I'm going to add a user now. So I'm going to add a user from.
Yeah. We're short on arms up here, sorry. So just bear with us while we work out our hands. And this is the source file for our HR system that we've definitely spent a lot of time engineering. Awesome. And now we will run it and see what happens on the Entra side.
Just to mention in here, this service principal, it is the this number. It is service principal for the API that we created. So, if you have different, if you have, we have more, if you have 2, 3, 5 domains, something like this, and we created 5 APIs to provision all of the user into one tenant. So by this, and then the tenant, because the tenant ID is always same if you have one tenant in our organization, but we connect, for example, 5 domains to that. So this one, this service principal is the one that is say, okay, for this domain, provision user through this API.
And that service principal can be just for cloud too. It doesn't have to be redirecting to an AD. That was that first boring architecture picture I showed you. Cool, so now we'll let it run. And I'm having to watch between 2 screens, so bear with me. It's doing its thing. And we're good. So let's look at AD and see what happened. And you can see our new users. So all of that has happened without any manipulation of that user data in the Entra ID console itself. We can look though and see those users in that console in a sec.
Yeah, actually, sometimes.
Yeah, oh, yeah, of course. So anybody who's worked with Entra ID, sometimes there are delays for some of the events finishing processing. So yeah, correct. So while it does that, I knew someone was going to ask about passwords. So sorry, what? No, all good. So password policy depends on what you're doing with the lifecycle of accounts in Entra ID. It's not set by this script though. So this just gets the user object in there. If you've got conditional access policy setting up taps or setting a password separately, all of the existing things used in Entra ID still apply. Correct. Yes. I'm almost certain that there is actually no password set in our demo at the moment because we haven't got conditional access policy for that. But yeah, it's whatever you've got outside of this script picks up and manages that process for you. Good? The demo gods strike again. We're about to do it. So we're going to check out some logs in Sync Service Manager just because we had some issues with the service. And my eyes aren't that good. 3, yep. So we're just waiting on that to complete, and then we can show new users provisioned in Entra ID. Yeah.
User? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I need both of my hands to help work. Yeah, it's there are new users. It shows the creation of the new users. It's properties. All of them are new. When we change, we can update this file. For example, we can change the address of the user, phone number of the user, things that we usually change for the user, for users, not group membership. I'm not talking about that one. And then when we run all of these scripts again, it will update the users. It is not just for creating, it is for updating as well. So update the user if you change first name, last name, the rest of the things for users attribute. Except the most important things for us, it is one of the most important, it's employee ID. I will show you why employee ID is very important for us.
Yeah, so that's our primary key in this instance. We know that you guys are working in organizations which potentially don't have that primary key. Cool. So, yeah, you.
So we forgot to update food or drink for these 3 new users. Maybe we just update it and run it again.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll do a quick user update because these people's favorite food and drink is wrong. And we're telling them it's wrong. No, they were wrong. So, Pepsi, really? We won't hold it against him. Water. Come on, Pedram. That's a better selection. Vodka and sushi is quite an interesting taste. What, bread? Bread and water? Excellent. Now we'll run it again. And as Pedram alluded to before, this is an update process and a create process. So we should expect that those accounts get matched and the new attributes populated both in AD and in Entra ID, though Entra ID will take longer. So we'll let it run. And then we'll check the users. I'm going to turn down the volume on my tablet. Wrong button. Yep, so checking out the new users that we created before, we'll look at those attributes and you can see the poor choices that we've put in, to be honest, have been updated. Okay, yes, up the back. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then on occasion, you want to run a targeted sync.
Yes.
It might be just, I want to just sync a user, a test user, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So how would you achieve that?
There are so many ways to do that. So getting into PowerShell and initiating the commands is one way. Maybe a lighter and more business-friendly way is something that we can show you later on, time forbidding, which is some of the new features in Logic Apps.
Okay.
There's quite a lot of smarts there that can do that without super heavy, confusing flows, and it can be triggered from any other application that you can think of. So there's potentially some use there. Yeah, we can run through all of that.
Yeah, cool. All right. There you go.
And I'm checking with Meryl to make sure I'm saying everything correctly. No. Cool, so we're just checking to make sure that that's run now in Entra ID by checking the provisioning logs. And we've confirmed that Vaughan needs glasses. There you go. So those are the properties being updated. You can see the new drink choice. You can see the new food choice. We are right and ready to go for the user. So quite powerful, new, very exciting. It's a capability that a lot of our clients are asking about, and we're really pleased to see it, to be honest. Now what we'll do, where are we up to? Yes, correct. Let's bring up the attributes in Entra, and you can talk to that.
So the thing is, once we have the custom attributes inside our Active Directory, we should sync them to Entra ID. So how we do this, we need to update our AD Connect as well. So I think all of Entra ID Connect, sorry. Entra ID Connect. So make sure you update your Entra ID Connect to sync all of these attributes to Entra ID. We have too many Entra. So yeah, this is a place that all of these magic happen. We should click on advanced option. And yeah, this one shows all of the attributes that we have in our on-prem AD for this one, for this domain. So it will take sometimes it's loading everything. So these are out of the box. And for our custom attributes, we added in here to drink, hire date, and food. If you have any other attributes in here, just add it in here and type it. Usually select string for I messed up sometimes. Then I select other stuff. A string is the safest. And then when AD Entra Connect synced all of this information, we need to match it in here as well to, okay. So we need to go up in here, move it here. And these three, as you can see from the scheme, from the format, these are the custom attributes that we added look, this is a file that this is inside our script. Scripts. Sorry, if I show scripts, as you can see, this one is match. It's very difficult to here highlight it with one hand. This one is a match. With this one. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So this one is matched with the stuff that we have in here. And then at the end, we need to say, all right, match this with this. These are from on-prem to this. Then it says, yes, script, push it to Entra ID. So we are going to match these stuff in here. So, yeah, that's all. This is a
cool. Good stuff. So what I think we might do now, we've got a couple of minutes left, and I might take over this part if you're okay with that. Because I want to just quickly show off changes to Logic Apps. Once again, as I called out at the start, there were many more things rolled out when Microsoft did its big Entra ID product release, which was actually a name change. One of the things was the ability to use Entra ID in Logic Apps. And a funny story about that, actually, because I was talking to Merrill in February about my cool product idea to get Entra ID to work in Logic Apps. And he stood there and looked at me and went, because it was coming. Microsoft typically beat me to the chase. So this is an example of a really, really fundamental Logic app that we've created for user onboarding. So I am going to bring up the workflow for it. And this is my first time using this computer, so bear with me. And you can see this is the workflow that I have created for this Logic app. Now, I am deliberately trying to show how simple and vanilla these workflows can be. There's not a lot of governance here. If you guys go and recommend using this out in the wild, I would strongly advise that a Microsoft form being submitted doesn't automatically create a new user without any conditions. But for argument's sake, that's what this does here. So when a user hits a specific Microsoft form, and I think I can bring it up. Oh, can I bring it up? I can't remember if I've shared it with you. No. But anyway, what happens is a user fills in a response. This Logic app will detect that a form's been submitted. It'll farm all of the details out of that form, and it will create a user without me typing up any code, picking out the actual specific attributes from the form that I created. So it's really quite powerful. And there's much more that you can do with this than just that. So in my Logic apps, if I type in Entra ID / Vaughn's stolen idea, you can see there's a whole library of these connectors that you can use. So everything from adding a user to a group, to assigning a manager to a user, to checking group memberships, to some of your more interesting things such as getting the groups of a user, all supported without code in Logic apps. Yes? This is separate again. So everything we're showing you today, we've actually been able to set up without the use of the identity lifecycle new SKUs for two reasons. We wanted to show you what you can do now, and we didn't want to pay for the licensing. So that's all in your logic apps on your on your Azure tenancies right now. And if you use some imagination, you can imagine that there's opportunities here to do things like if a manager changes in a specific application because someone's going on leave, then you can use a logic app to update the person's manager in Entra ID without having to get any middlemen, ServiceNow tickets or anything like that involved. All of those opportunities are there, and that's why we really wanted to show you these options today. So any questions about that? That's my last thought for today, because I don't want to hold up getting people to pizza. Oh, Pedram's going to hold you up getting to pizza.
Yeah, sorry guys. Just because we provision all of these users on-prem and then sync it to Entra ID, and all of the organization that they have Active Directory, for sure they have resources on-prem as well. So whatever we said so far is just creating user and then sync it to Entra ID. How about group membership? Group membership is on-prem. Many organizations, they do not sync all of their group to Azure AD, so they are not in Entra ID. And the group that we sync to Entra ID, they are read-only. Even if we enable group write back, we cannot edit those group in Entra ID. So what we need to do about this one, so actually there is a workaround for that. I'm not saying there is no solution from Microsoft, but there is a workaround for that. So what we did for this one, I'm doing it very quickly. So in here, if I go to the, so on-prem, we have a group in here that groups in here. There is a group in here. It is Sushi Lover on-prem. Yeah, if I can find it. Oh yeah, it's here. Sorry, my bad. Our group write back, it's written to a user. So this is, for example, this is a Sushi Lover. Okay, this is an on-prem group, but the group that we can edit or update, they are in Entra. So what we did, we enable group write back version 2, not version 1. Group write back version 2, you can do it through PowerShell, not from GUI. So enable that, and then once you enable it, then we create another group in Entra ID. So if I go to groups, if I can sushi here. Okay. This gets synced, but we cannot edit it. So we create a group. This group can be anything. It could be security, it could be cloud group, and we create a dynamic group. And the rule in this dynamic group is that whoever the extension food that we sync it to Entra, say, okay, if it's food equals sushi, add it to this group. And members are this user. This user is food is sushi. And because we have group write backs, we have this group in here. Oh, if I can, there should be a sushi in here. Group. Okay, yeah, this group. Yeah. And if you check this one, properties, it is member of, it is on-prem group. And members, it is that user. So by doing this, if we assign any permission, all of the permission privilege that we have for this on-prem group, it's inherited to this group, and then users, they can get this access as well. So, yeah, this is all. Oh, sorry. This is a pizza lover.
Pizza lover. Is that your next group, is it? So yeah, that's the part of the demo